Welcome to Dollars and Cents with Freedman Financial, the home for financial advice in a language you can understand. Created by Marc Freedman of Freedman Financial, he and his team of certified financial planner professionals will discuss timely topics that help individuals and families make smart financial decisions. And now, get ready for this week's edition of Dollars and Cents with Freedman Financial.
Welcome back to another edition of Dollars and Cents with Freedman Financial. My name is Marc Freedman.
And I'm Marion Gilman.
And we're here to provide you with some financial advice in a language you can understand. Well, this past week we dealt with the government announcing a shutdown. We are taping this about a week ahead of time, so perhaps the government's back open for business again.
Let's hope.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not too concerned about it. It's a lot of political jostling for trying to everybody get a little piece of something, but in reality, I can't imagine that it's impacted any of our clients. And frankly, if you were a government worker and you were furloughed, you got some vacation time.
In all honesty, the last shutdown, the last government, partial government shutdown I saw was in 2019. So it's not all that uncommon that the government actually can't come to agreement and shuts down.
They'll come to agreement.
And it was shut down for 35 days.
35 days, yeah, I heard that as well.
Yeah, not a big deal.
And if you were furloughed, you got all the back pay.
Yeah, so there you go.
So nice vacation. Now, if you're a private contractor who works for the government, you might be struggling a little bit.
Yeah.
But are we concerned here about from a bigger perspective, from a global perspective, from a long-term perspective? No.
Honestly, I am amazed at how resilient the stock market has been. You know, we always say that the country is very resilient. We've gotten through so much. I mean, think of all of the crises that we've come through where the stock market has tanked or whatever, fallen, always come back, always gone on to greater heights. This year, we did see a downturn at one point during the course of the year, but it recovered immediately, and it has been remarkably resilient through all of this.
And why wouldn't we think that it wouldn't be otherwise? I had someone in just last week. He said, "Mark," he says, "are you concerned about the stock market, pulling back again?" I said, "No, but I'm certain it will."
Yeah.
It does. That's what happens in the stock market. It overshoots, pulls back, overshoots, pulls back, back and forth. So we've been spoiled.
We really had the past 3 years.
I mean, even with the pullback that we forget that we had in April. Remember when Trump announced all of these tariffs, right? And the market sunk back, pulled back 12 to 15% in some areas.
Right.
But almost within 30 or 60 days, or even less, it rebounded and then went on to new heights.
Right.
But as a country, I mean, we can all have our political biases of what we think of the president or what we think of the political culture that exists here in America. But economically, we're doing great. We really are, especially if you're in a situation where you're employed, you have the ability to put money into your 401k, you have positive cash flow. Now, granted, there is a percentage of the population that is not in that situation, and I don't think you're watching this podcast.
Right. I mean, and it is certainly difficult for some people in the U.S., and that's always been the case. And I don't know how to solve that. I am not up on that in terms of how to solve it. I don't think anyone knows how to solve it. But in fact, there is a greater percentage of the population that is doing well, and this has not affected
and thriving for that matter.
Exactly.
I mean, think about. There's all sorts of different avenues to get into revenue opportunities, jobs, whatever you want to call it.
And today, it's amazing.
But with the advent of social media, I mean, you've got 16 and 18-year-old kids making $2 million a year because, you show them fashion trends or something. It doesn't matter. So, I mean, look, all you need is a cell phone to be able to make money. So anybody who tells us that they can't find a job or can't figure out a way to make money, it drives me insane, frankly, because there are opportunities. You just have to go find them. You just can't be sitting around waiting for somebody to find you.
That's exactly right. And it might, I don't know about you, Mark. Actually, I do know about you.
You do.
But back in the day, we did a lot of things that were not great jobs. I mean, I waited tables for years because that was what I could do to make some money.
Right.
You worked in a restaurant.
Oh, I've worked in plenty of restaurants. But
Yeah.
you know what? You know how I find jobs? How I found a job when I was 14 years old was when you could get your learner's permit.
Yep.
And I worked at a restaurant that was in the old, they used to call it the King's Plaza in West Peabody, which is now where Hannaford is in Peabody.
Yeah.
There was a little restaurant called the Home Cookery. It was a small little restaurant. They made comfort food, if you will, and you'd go into the restaurant. And I went in looking for a dishwasher job. Just looking for a job. But that's how you went looking for a job. Did I have a resume? No, I was 14 years old. I mean,
well, I had an in because my aunt managed a donut shop.
There you go.
So I got my first job at the donut shop on Saturdays.
Yeah, so you
doing counter work. You know?
So you already had a way to do it. But if you didn't have somebody
I was
in
lucky.
the business,
Right.
you knocked on a door and you said, "Hey, could I speak to the manager? I'm interested in applying for a dishwashing job or a busing job," or whatever it could have been.
And honestly, I can tell you, even today, restaurants would hire
They
you
love
in
that.
a half a
They
second.
don't want to go searching through Indeed or online applications. They want you to walk in the door. Not at lunchtime.
Right.
You walk in at lunchtime, they don't want to talk to you. Walk in at 2:30 in the afternoon and apply.
And I understand that a lot of companies are not hiring, but I will tell you, every restaurant I ever worked in, they would hire immediately a good worker who came to the door and wanted an entry-level job. And today, I know a lot of restaurateurs, and they still will hire anybody who has even a smidgen of experience.
Love to have
or will
you.
do a dishwashing position.
Yeah. It's just, and my kids, a couple of years ago, before they had jobs and stuff, when I would tell them that they had to go knocking on doors, they said, "Oh, Dad, that's awkward." It's awkward. It's the way the world works. People talk to each other, and they don't quite see it that way. It's a generational issue for sure.
Well, they're so used to doing everything online. And although restaurants, now you can make reservations online, you can do a lot online, the chefs and the owners are in the restaurants. They are not spending their time online. They're spending their time cooking, ordering food, maintaining the restaurant. So in order to get a job in one of those types of places, you need to go in and tell them you're looking for work.
Yeah. And,
no question.
And they are open for it, but don't visit them when it's busy time.
Right.
Because they think you don't understand the business, and you don't. If you want, you
That's
don't
right.
show up you don't go in there and have lunch, and then in the middle of lunch go to find the manager to talk to them. No, you can't do that.
2:30.
Yeah, 2:30 is a nice time.
Yeah.
Nice time to do that.
Absolutely.
So we were going to talk. We weren't even supposed to talk about this.
No, of course not. But
actually,
you know what?
we never know what we're going to talk about on the podcast. So, Marion, you had a call with somebody about the discussion of when you go into retirement. Does it make sense to stay in your home? Does it make sense to rent a place? Tell us a little bit more about that conversation.
Yeah, it was really interesting because there are lots of ways to think about owning a home versus renting an apartment or renting a place somewhere. And we always think about, and many of our clients, many of them, stay in their homes far too long, and then all of a sudden are forced to move. But I think most people grew up thinking that home ownership was the be-all, end-all of what you needed to do in order to be successful. And it means you'll always have a roof over your head, and that is absolutely true. On the other hand, maybe going into retirement, you want a little more flexibility. Maybe you don't want to be tied to one area. Maybe you want to unlock the fortune, at least around here,
For the most,
that you have tied up in your primary residence, and use that to travel the world or experience different areas.
Or not have the burden of having to take care of so many things within your own personal home.
That's right.
I mean, people's greatest wealth, many people's greatest wealth these days is their home. And in fact, for many folks, especially those that don't have the accumulated 401k plans or the ability to save money on a regular basis and build up investment accounts. Your wealth is your home. You might have paid $29,900 for your home, and now it's worth $900,000.
That's not uncommon.
Not at all. And yet people say, but I don't want to leave my house. This is what's comfortable. And so you live on your Social Security check and maybe a small amount of income that you get from an IRA or something. Yet the ability to have a bigger life, a greater retirement experience is in front of you if you unleashed the equity that you've built in your home and looking at alternative places.
Absolutely. And one of the arguments that many people present who want to stay in their homes, they say, well, it costs so little to live here because, I don't have any mortgage anymore and, so the house is paid for. However, on the other hand, if you're living in a high, in one of the, let's say along the East Coast, your taxes are typically going up and they can be going up radically in some areas. I know we have clients with homes in southern Maine, and they've told us their neighbors have been priced out of the market because the taxes have gone up so much.
I mean, some people are paying more for their quarterly tax payments than they were for their monthly mortgage payments. And one of the other alternatives, Marion, of what people are doing is they're looking at senior living facilities.
Right, and I know a lot of people will say, I don't want to go into a senior living facility. However, I think it's a great option for so many people because think about it, they are in their houses alone many times because their spouse has passed away, and so they're living in this big house all by themselves. And sure, they'll say, well, we have great neighbors. You have great neighbors, but what if those neighbors move? And we actually have a situation just like that recently where, a client was living in her house, had a great neighbor that helped out when needed, and the neighbor's moving. So what do you do? And some of those senior living places have great options.
Yeah, and another client of ours, she was concerned. Her husband had passed away. They were living in a condo. She was in a condo facility where she had friends around, but she thought, I don't know if I can continue to afford to live here. My husband took care of a bunch of things.
Right.
Maybe I look at an apartment, but the other, or moving with the kids, or the other alternative was to look at the senior living facility. And one of the things that she liked of the senior living facility, more so than she did the apartment, was the fact that if you're in an apartment, a landlord can keep raising the rent. A landlord can sell the property. A landlord can ultimately kick you out.
Sure.
But if you go to these senior living facilities, you have a place to live for the rest of your life.
Right.
And there's lots to think about.
Yeah.
And not to mention all of the cleanup that's necessary to get out of your house, right?
Well, yes, and all of the maintenance. I mean, I couldn't live in my house without my husband. It's way too much for me to take care of on my own. I couldn't do that.
It's an effort. I mean, just even knowing.
And we don't need this space.
Yeah, no. There's a lot of things to consider, but it's all part of a bigger financial plan, and that's what we call financial advice in a language you can understand. So if now's the time for you to get serious about your financial planning or investment management needs, we hope you'll give us a call. 978-531-8108. That's 978-531-8108, or visit us on the web, freedmanfinancial.com. That's Freedman.
2 E's and a D.
Financial.com. Go to the bottom of any page. You can put in your name and your email address and sign up for our free weekly newsletter that lands in your inbox every Friday morning at 10:30. And of course, if you like these podcasts and you'd like to subscribe to see more of them, you can go to our YouTube site of Freedman Financial. You'll find all sorts of information there, or sign up on any of your favorite podcasting channels, and you can listen to us over and over and over again if you want. That's going to do it for us this week. Yeah, we'll see you again next week. Have a great day, everybody.
Enjoy.
During today's episode of Dollars and Cents with Freedman Financial, your host may have discussed specific financial planning and investment ideas that are for general information only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations. Please remember that investing involves risk and may include loss of principal. Always consult a certified financial planner professional, qualified attorney, or tax advisor prior to investing to determine what is appropriate for you. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA, SIPC.